Assalamu alaikum and welcome all viewers. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. I started a series on evolution and abiogenesis about a year ago, and I haven't got around to continuing that series until now. One of the reasons I didn't create any more videos until now on this subject is really it's such a divisive issue. It's one of those areas where I think there's a lot of psychological influence. What do I mean by that? So if you read the books on psychology, they'll tell you about commitment and consistency. If you publicly commit to something, you want to remain consistent on it. So for example, the camp of people that believe in evolution and abiogenesis and are committed to there not being a creator, even though in my personal opinion it's not scientific to throw away any possibility, they have thrown away that possibility. They start with that as an assumption that there is no possibility of ABC, it's only D. D is the only outcome that it could possibly be, so therefore all of our scientific endeavors will be based on that. So it kind of creates this circular argument where, you know, it's kind of like evolution is right because evolution is right. Because it's that divisive, I found myself getting distracted from actual learning, seeking knowledge. So I took a break, because when you get involved in posting these videos, and if you have to respond to comments, or you decide to respond to comments on these videos, it takes a long time, but it doesn't get you anywhere, because like I said, people on the whole have mostly committed to their position, subhanAllah. One of the things I've been doing over the past year is collecting, expanding my Arabic library here, trying to learn a bit more Arabic, and seeing this just motivates me a lot. So this is one of the reasons I've not been making videos on evolution much. So in any case, I decided to make this video because I actually enjoy researching them, and I enjoy making them, and inshallah there's going to be benefit in it. But I want to put a caveat to this video. All of my Muslim brothers and sisters out there, please don't leave seeking Islamic knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in exchange for spending all your time researching this kind of thing. The truth of Islam is known through the fitrah, subhanallah. And this is something that the scientific method is just a method, but people have turned it into a religion. We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists through the fitrah. We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists because of the Quran. We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists because of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So subhanallah, we need to have iman, we need to have faith in our religion, and then there's really not that much benefit to these discussions after that. But subhanallah, I do like science, I'm interested in it. Science in terms of learning about the world around us, and it helps me to see the glorious splendor of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So last time we spoke about textbook dogma, reductionism, circular arguments, homology, the fossil record. In the media, the way that media portrays evolution, you see these kind of animated cartoon things where it shows like a fox or a dog or something climbing into the water and then swimming, and then its legs turn into flippers, and then its body turns into the body of an amphibious creature, and then next thing you know, it's a whale. It's like a story that fits with the narrative, and then because people have the imagery in their mind, it starts to become a reality in their mind. So this is the way it's pushed. We also spoke about many of the fossil record explosions, like the Cambrian explosion, carnivorous insect explosion, the Triassic explosions, and so on and so forth. And there's no precursors in the fossil record for this. When you talk to people that believe that abiogenesis was the force of creation and then evolution took over and everything else took place, when you talk to these people, they will use a lot of aggression, and they'll say, you're an idiot, don't you read? Are there no books where you live? I don't have time for any of your stupid religious nonsense. I saw this in a comment the other day. I know a lot of the people who, like for example from the Discovery Institute, it's ostensibly a Christian organization, but the people there are, I have to say, they're very polite, they're very calm in their interviews mostly. Dr. James Tour gets excited, he doesn't curse and swear and insult them. On the other side, you see a lot of cursing, insulting, swearing, calling idiots, morons, stupid creationists, stuff like this. This is not a scientific argument to call someone a stupid creationist moron that believes in fairies. It's just a way of taking people's attention away from the argument. So in this video, I wanted to talk about the fossil record a little bit more in terms of some of the discoveries which are claim to be these kind of missing links, like the skeleton of Lucy and Ardi. And then I want to talk about resistance to antibiotics and Linsky's experiment, because I think this is a really interesting thing to talk about. Apologies for the lack of continuity. I'm not shooting this video in the same day, so I'm here at home now. I'm following on from the last video where we spoke in brief about the fossil explosions and the lack of precursors and that sort of thing. Today I wanted to speak a little bit about Lucy and Ardi, especially because these two remains, skeletal remains, are lauded by evolutionists, neo-Darwinists as indisputable proof of missing links or transitional forms from chimps to humans. What I will argue is that these remains have just been reconstructed and forced into the Darwinistic paradigm, and then just rammed down the throats of the general populace through the media to make people believe that it's a fact, when in actual fact there's a lot of holes in this kind of narrative. So Lucy, for example, many people think that it's a complete skeleton that they found, but they found about 40% of the skeleton, and the skull, for example, and the pelvis were in pretty poor condition. And these are two parts of any skeletal remains that would give you a lot of information about that particular creature that you found. They found the bones scattered all across a hillside, and I mean this is very well documented. I'm not bringing anything groundbreaking here. There's a lot of questions. Did these bones all belong to a single species, to a single person? And in fact, a few years ago, it was discovered that one of the bones in the upper spine, I believe it was, actually belonged to a non-human, and the pelvis was smashed. You know, it had to be reconstructed, and of course, who reconstructed it? People trying to fit the reconstruction into a Darwinian paradigm. Again, you know, it goes back to these cartoons that people have been showed, and oh yeah, Darwin is, you know, they start with the assumption that abiogenesis and Darwinism is true, and then they fit everything into that paradigm and then ram it down your throat. I'm showing a picture here of something I found on one of the websites, which is an exhibit in a museum which shows supposedly Lucy standing upright with a partner or another kind of creature. And of course, a lot of imagination has to be used here, because like 40% of the skeleton, most of the skull was missing, and this is, you know, the recreation we see. And it's all, again, designed to fit into a story that people want you to believe when there's no real evidence for it. Another example is Ardi, another skeleton that was found in extremely poor condition. Reading the literature online, when they found Ardi, they were saying, you know, move over Lucy, you know, now we found a real find. But the pelvis again was totally pulverized. You know, it took them a long time to do the reconstruction. A lot of evolutionary scientists or paleontologists, are you really sure it's an upright species, or did you just force the reconstruction to fit that paradigm? Of course, people committed to the evolutionary paradigm will tell you you're an idiot, you're a creationist, they call you all sorts of names. This is why I'm saying it's almost worthless. There's no point to engage on these things, because never the twain shall meet. There's another one I was reading about called Homo naledi. Hundreds of bones found in a cave, and they assumed it kind of fit into a slot that they were looking to fit some bones into, or to a skeleton into, a 2 to 3 million year old slot. Oh yeah, this is great evidence, of a transitional form. And it turns out the actual geological age was only 2,000 to 3,000 years old. So it kind of destroyed that missing link theory. Bear something in mind, evolutionists are desperate to interpret the data to fit their pre-selected paradigm. You know, they're locked into this evolutionary mindset, and it's based on a materialistic way of thinking. So this goes back to what I was saying about the circular argument. If you set out trying to prove that something is true regardless of what you find, then that's what you're going to do. I think that's what we're finding here. It's very exciting to see these finds, these fossil finds, and put them together and try and understand a little bit more. But what I'm trying to do with this video is just trying to help people to understand that this is really, a lot of it, this is propaganda to try and make people that believe in God, in a creator, feel that they're stupid and they don't have an opinion, because science is the only way to interpret things. As I said at the start of the video, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is known through the fitrah, the natural disposition, and the Quran is the miracle that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent with, and the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, subhanallah. So we don't need to have an inferiority complex about this, subhanallah. On the contrary, those people that are trying to ram this down our throats, this anger and frustration when they talk to people like us, is representative of some internal kind of issue that they have. So we need to be thankful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided us to his religion and stay firm on our faith, alhamdulillah. So the second part of this video that I wanted to discuss was antibiotics, because a lot of people will say, when you tell them, come on man, evolution, you can't prove it, they'll say, yeah, but what about Lenski's experiment with E. coli, what about antibiotics, resistance, viruses, things like that? And on the face of it, that would seem to almost be true, because some mutation must take place in order for the bacteria in our bodies to become resistant to the antibiotics that we're putting into our bodies, right? So resistance to antibiotics, let's quickly go through that. Now, I took most of this content from a video which I'll link to below, which I found it very, very interesting. Very, very simple video, but I had to read through it and take a lot of notes to properly understand it. And I think that's one of the things that's missing these days. People just don't take the time to go through things properly and read them and understand them, so that we can find, what is the actual truth, what's the case, what do I know about this, for sure, and what don't I know about this for sure. The doctors will always tell you, finish your course of antibiotics. Otherwise, you might find that the next time you go to take these antibiotics, you'll be resistant to them. There are two main pathways that we know of where bacteria becomes resistant to these antibiotics. So the first one is quite surprising. It was surprising to me, is that the resistance pre-exists. Now, the example I saw of this was that there were some frozen corpses of fishermen who died 120 years before modern antibiotics were developed. And they had resistance, pre-existing resistance to many antibiotics in their gut bacteria. So some bacteria actually already have pre-existing resistance. One of the ways that bacteria shares its DNA with other bacteria is through these things called plasmids, and that it uses a process called horizontal gene transfer. Plasmids are basically loops of DNA that can replicate independently. So it's easy for a non-resistant bacteria to get a plasmid containing resistant DNA, and this is not evolution. So this is the first pathway for resistance, that the resistance pre-exists in certain bacteria. And those resistant bacteria can share that resistance very quickly through sharing its plasmids through horizontal gene transfer, so the DNA gets shared very quickly. And all of this horizontal gene transfer and the plasmids, and it's pre-existing in the DNA, so it's not like anything new has been added through mutation or anything like that. The second way is that the resistance is developed. So how is resistance developed? So bacteria multiply very quickly. We know this from our O-level GCSE studies at school. So if you start with a single standard bacteria and just let it multiply, a new population could develop resistance. That's because the DNA replication is almost accurate, but not quite in every single case. But given the rate at which these bacteria multiply, sometimes these little mistakes can occur. Almost all the time, these mistakes don't cause an effect, but sometimes they can cause resistance or an immunity to some antibiotics. And this is where the Darwinists will jump in and say that this is incontrovertible proof of the power of evolution. The issue with that is that mutation doesn't improve the health of the bacteria, but it damages it. So the mutations, they don't add information, they destroy information. So it's like a mutation that helps you read faster, but the side effect is blindness. Now, Darwinian evolution isn't supposed to break things. It's supposed to convey an advantage to an organism. So if you remove the antibiotics, say, these kind of broken bacteria will die because they can't compete with the regular bacteria. So is that evolution? It's not evolution. So in line with what we were just talking about bacteria developing resistance to antibiotics, Dr. Richard Lenski, for about the last 25 years in Michigan State University, has been growing E. coli bacteria colonies in a lab there, just growing generation after generation after generation, because the E. coli bacteria reproduces so quickly. Then we can observe what happened. Because over the past 25 years, our ability to look into genetics and what happens at the genetic level has improved a great deal. So in more recent years, they've actually been able to see exactly what's been happening. A couple of interesting things happened in later generations of these E. coli. They started growing a lot faster than regular E. coli, and they developed the ability to consume citrate. And I mean, I'm skimming over a lot here, and you can go and read about this if you wish, but none of these developments that happened with these later generations of E. coli bacteria was actually evolution. It was basically just parts of the existing genetic code becoming broken, and the manifestation of those hobbled kind of E. coli bacteria was that they grow faster or be able to consume citrate. Because they were being swished around in jars, for example, their flagella, which is the kind of outboard motor that they used to power themselves, became unnecessary as they were in these agitated flasks. So the citrate, all the proteins and pathways for citrate transport and metabolization were there all along, plus a very complicated, sophisticated mechanism to turn it on and off. So why did it need to be turned on and off? Because consuming citrate is not always necessary. So there was a mechanism that allowed it to switch that ability on and off. Now this isn't evolution. There's no new genes, no new body plans. It's just basically breaking existing stuff. So bear this in mind when people talk to you about evolution happening right in front of our eyes in these kind of experiments in viral mutations and things like that. To really properly understand what's going on, we need to look under the skin. And like I said, to go deep into these things is going to take your time away from studying and understanding the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I said, I like researching these videos. I make these videos because I want people to become kind of immune to the propaganda that's being issued by these people in the evolutionary science domain. And it's fine, I mean, people want to go away and do research, but the problem is that when you engage in discussions with them, they attack. They don't have these objective discussions with you. It's greeted with extreme aggression and disdain, you know, even to the point I saw one very famous YouTuber the other day, and he was saying that I hate these guys. You know, man, come on. Science is supposed to be something that is objective, and it should be something that's searching for the truth in what's happening, not trying to reinforce an existing dogma. And I'll say it again, evolution and neo-Darwinism, it's a religion, so be careful engaging with these people. And again, I strongly advise, rather than engaging with them, just focus on seeking Islamic knowledge. Barakallahu feekum. I hope this video is useful. In the next one, inshallah, we'll talk about the information problem. This is probably the biggest problem that evolutionary scientists and neo-Darwinists have to explain. They can't explain it, and cell complexity. So inshallah, if this was beneficial, please like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.